The Biden DOJ suing Elon, not a surprise. Lawfare is well underway. They're going after Trump. They're going after alternate electors. They're going after J6ers. Biden has come out from his Gates of Hell speech and said all MAGA extremist Republicans are now under scrutiny. So now Elon, who is not part of the Biden cabal, not part of the government union jobs, who are part of the favored green movement, Elon is on the outs. And so now the Biden DOJ is suing him, suing SpaceX for discriminating against asylees and refugees in hiring. So this is just a lawsuit, and they filed it against SpaceX. They say that from 2018 to 2022, SpaceX routinely discouraged asylees from applying and denied them because of their citizen status in violation of the law. We'll read through the lawsuit. You can see that Attorney General Kristen Clark said, "Our investigation found that SpaceX failed to fairly consider or hire asylees and refugees because their citizenship, and they imposed what amounted to a ban on their hiring regardless of their qualifications." A couple things they say: that they discouraged them from applying. SpaceX failed to fairly consider applications, refused to hire qualified asylees, and so on. This includes welders, cooks, crane operators, and others. And we know that SpaceX does have to comply with export control laws and different regulations, but the laws do not require them to treat refugees differently. And so, boom, this lawsuit just comes out and goes directly against an enemy of the administration, as per usual. They don't like Elon. They really don't like the fact that he owns Twitter now, X, and that he is reshaping the political narrative as the election emerges. And so they're suing him, and this is what it looks like. Our rotten government filed this one. It says the United States DOJ, from the Executive Office for Immigration Review, another giant bureaucracy, Office of the Chief Administrative Hearing Officer. They're filing this, a complaint from our government, the United States of America, against SpaceX, one of the only companies in this country that's doing anything interesting, new, novel, breaking new barriers, new limits. The government doesn't like that they're not kowtowing to their, I guess, equitable hiring philosophy. The government now gets to tell SpaceX how to hire. Here's what the complaint says. Our useless government says, the complaint in the United States of America says, from at least September 2018 to May 2022, SpaceX discriminated against asylees and refugees during recruiting, screening, selection. Because of their citizenship status, asylees, refugees had virtually no chance of being fairly considered. In online postings and statements by SpaceX's CEO and other SpaceX officials, SpaceX discouraged asylees from applying to the company by wrongly stating that SpaceX can only hire U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents. As those asylees and refugees who did not apply for jobs at SpaceX, the company failed to fairly consider them and refused to hire them. This was widespread, long-standing, and so the complainant, the people who are upset about this, is the Immigration Office, an office within the Civil Rights Division of the Biden Department of Justice, and now they're suing to stop SpaceX. SpaceX is incorporated in Delaware. They employed more than 3 employees in the United States. We believe that there's discrimination going on in SpaceX. There's a pattern of it that's been happening in violation of the law. And they, SpaceX, failed to provide documents responsive to the government's investigation, okay? So these bureaucrats sitting behind their keyboards at IER have got nothing better to do than wage war on behalf of their administration against their political opponents. They open an investigation, which is part of the pain, it's part of the process, part of the penalty. Before this lawsuit is even filed, they're like, SpaceX, give us this. We want to know the demographics and what countries did they come from and what were they qualified for. And we're going to comb through, send us spreadsheets and emails. It's like, oh gosh, can we just do our job? We want to build rockets and put them up into space. Stop sending us demands for our hiring practices. So they sought and they got a subpoena, right? This is what our government does. They got a subpoena from a hearing officer, another useless bureaucrat. On December 1st, 2020, OCAHO, some other entity, okay? This is the Office of the Chief Administration Hearing Officer, OCAHO faux show, Chief Administrative Law Judge, denied SpaceX's petition to modify or revoke the OCAHO subpoena. So then they applied to the district court for an order. They required SpaceX to comply with the subpoena. On June 30th, a district court adopted the judge's recommendation and enforced the subpoena. They're not giving you your documents to comport with your equitable demands. Produce the documents by August 3rd. Elon has already gotten this crap before. Remember that Jack Smith tried to go get Trump's DMs from him when he was trying to get his Twitter account, now X. So they're just going after, just like Trump, in all of the various states in criminal prosecutions and all of the other states with various civil litigation, going after his deputies, lieutenants, people who would work for him and be on the campaign, going after all of them, going after Elon. And the list goes on, including J6ers and campaign coordinators in different states like Michigan. On November 30th, IER notified SpaceX that we've concluded our independent investigation and found reasonable cause to believe that SpaceX had engaged in a pattern and practice of unfair immigration-related employment practices. Complainant here, our government, files this complaint with Okaho, and they've got jurisdiction. They say, all right, asylees and refugees are migrants to the United States, and they've fled their home countries due to a well-founded fear of persecution. That's great. I mean, it's sad that they are being persecuted. It's nice that the United States has programs that people can follow legally and lawfully. Does that mean that Elon has to hire them? Once they are granted asylee or refugee status, they have indefinite permission to live and work in the United States, according to this handbook. Lawful permanent residents also have permission. They are issued resident green cards and so on. In 1986, Congress amended this to prohibit employment discrimination because of citizen status. And Elon has an explanation for this. We're going to go to him after this. Under 8 U.S. Code, the law, U.S. citizens and nationals, asylees, refugees, including those who actually hold these statuses, are protected from discrimination in hiring. Citizenship status, you can't discriminate against that in all stages of the hiring process, and the law is what the law is. Now, they tell us this is what SpaceX is doing. They are in a unique position because they have advanced rocketry and other considerations that other businesses don't have. SpaceX designs, manufactures, launches advanced rockets and spacecraft. They are subject to export control laws and regulations, including International Traffic in Arms Regulations, ITAR, and export regulations. This is the government acknowledging this. ITAR and these restrictions restrict an employer's ability to export certain things like goods, software, technology, and other things. SpaceX officials, says our government, have repeatedly said publicly that they can only hire U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents because of export control laws like ITAR. So SpaceX says this is our interpretation of U.S. law based on our position. But the government from the DOJ says, oh no, but they're interpreting it wrong. But export control laws and regulations do not prohibit them or restrict them from hiring these people, asylees and refugees. They're just the same as U.S. citizens. So under ITAR, they say U.S. persons means anybody who's a U.S. person, including refugees. In contrast, a foreign person, which is what's governed under what Elon is referencing, is not. You would, if you wanted to do that, you'd have to go through U.S. Department of State or Commerce to obtain the approval. So they're just saying that Elon is basically relying on the wrong law. He's wrong. He's relying on this law that says, I can't hire refugees and asylees. They're saying, no, you can, because what you're talking about are foreign persons, not U.S. persons. And refugees are U.S. persons, not foreign persons. SpaceX regularly conducts compliance assessments with export controls, a process to check whether they're complying with the rules. During the process, new and existing workers identify their status, whether they're U.S. or foreign. And despite SpaceX's claims, these do not contain employment or hiring restrictions. They do not require employees to limit their jobs. They do not prohibit employers and do not create an exception to hiring discrimination. So they say that SpaceX, the CEO, who then had approximately 36 million followers on X, that's June 16, 2020, that's Elon, a social media platform formerly known as Twitter, he posted the following. So they're saying Elon posted an illegal tweet. He said, U.S. law requires at least a green card to be hired at SpaceX, as rockets are advanced weapons technology. And they're saying, no, Elon, that's not true. You're misinterpreting the rules. Similarly, in an online video at an international space conference, September 2016, SpaceX CEO said that SpaceX had to comply with ITAR, which meant normal work visa is insufficient unless you obtain special permission from defense or state. He then stated, SpaceX is, quote, not allowed to hire people who don't have a green card. This video has been viewed more than 10.6 million times on YouTube. He also said in 2012, it's quite difficult for us to employ people that don't have a green card because of ITAR rules. He was encouraging people do anything you can to get a green card. And other SpaceX officials made similar statements previously. So they go through, they say these are the standard hiring practices at California. They recruit people, they fill a wide variety of positions, welders, cooks, operators, rocket engineers, and so on. They engage in nationwide recruitment efforts, routinely engaging in LinkedIn, Monster, Reddit, Hopin, Hacker, Airtable, and so on. They discuss the roles, and they tell people during their hiring saying that they're only able to hire U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents. They made 14 different job announcements. They had 719 participants. In a chat forum, some other engineer said, nope, sorry, sadly, must be a U.S. citizen. Wow. So they're probably very upset about this. Wow. You must be a citizen to work at SpaceX. Well, that's pretty racist and bigoted. We don't want citizens working at one of the most advanced countries there. We'd rather have refugees and asylees from other parts of the world we don't know anything about. From at least September 2018 and May, SpaceX tracked job applications using a database, and our rotten government went in there and just took it all because they got a subpoena from another rotten judge. From at least 2018 to 2022, SpaceX officials repeatedly rejected applicants who identified asylees or refugees, saying, nope, not authorized to work, not ITAR eligible. A recruiter rejected another applicant, and others said, nope, rejected, doesn't meet the qualifications, not a U.S. citizen. So they're just violating hiring practices. So SpaceX provided the federal government data, and they said that of this, SpaceX hired one asylee, only hired one individual who was an asylee. And that was only 4 months after they notified them of their investigation. But they did not hire any refugees who identified in the application. One asylee, no refugees. So they're very upset about that. They'd rather Elon fire a bunch of citizens and hire more refugees and asylees. So they say this is a pattern of racism, I'm sure, discrimination. This pattern was to intentionally discriminate against asylees and refugees, discouraging them from applying, routinely communicating this policy, trying to deter them and causing them to not be fairly considered. Even though at least some of the applicants were qualified. Wow, this is great. So we got like one sentence now of qualifications. This is great. Yeah, this is my obvious next question. Are any of these people qualified? Should they be working here? If they're a refugee from some country that is, broken down, do they have skills to do space engineering? Do they need to hire them? Like, do they need to meet a quota, in other words, is what they're asking? They can make many decisions. Asylees and refugees who would have applied for SpaceX's position had a real and present interest in working there. And so they say this is a discriminatory pattern because, I guess, of the numbers and because of their statements and because of the numbers. They were incorrectly interpreting the law and the numbers matched it, but I think there's a racist discriminatory practice that they're not really articulating very well for us. So the ALJ, they want to order SpaceX to stop these illegal practices and take affirmative steps to address the illegal practices, which means I guess they could just stop making those statements. Order SpaceX to pay a civil penalty for each individual discriminated against. So every asylee, every refugee, they want to get paid. They want to bleed Elon dry of his money and pay asylees and refugees. So now anybody who just applied and got rejected, money damages from some bureaucrat, judge, and our bureaucracy. Sick. Order SpaceX to provide a fair consideration to each applicant who identified as an asylee or refugee. So change your business, go back and rehire these people, go through the process, and don't be racist this time. Order SpaceX to hire applicants, okay? You have to hire these people who are victims of these discriminatory practices. Your company has to hire who the government says you have to hire. Order SpaceX to pay back pay. Those people you didn't hire who never got jobs, you owe them money anyway, including interest. Oh my gosh. And all other relief available to each individual discriminated against who is qualified and who's found to have suffered uncompensated lost wages due to denied or delayed employment. So every single person who applied wants to hit the lottery. And other such additional relief as justice may require, respectfully submitted by Alberto J. Ruiz Sanchez, Deputy Special Counsel from the Civil Rights Division, United States Department of Justice. Insane. We're living through the most disgusting of times, my friends. This is the government yet again. I don't know how many times we can say this. Just putting their boots on the necks of everybody that they don't like. Twitter doesn't censor hard enough. You've got the White House screaming at them. FBI screaming at them. Same with Facebook. SpaceX, Twitter not complying. How many people applied and how many millions of dollars would they have to pay out if this psychotic request got entered? This is literal absorption of of the private enterprise, right? This is the government. It's basically almost fascistic. The government is trying to subsume and control private enterprise. You hire these people, you take them from where we want. Citizens, you're all gone. Sorry, we prioritized you. You're out of here. Refugees and asylees can go to, some of the most treasured positions in this whole country. And Elon is penalized. And people who didn't provide any value at all, who just applied for an application because some bureaucrat said they got discriminated against, they'll get back pay plus interest. And they'll get jobs too, which is basically the government taking over the company. It's insane and disgusting. It's not only happening with Trump, it's happening here with Musk. It's happening everywhere. David Sachs responds. David Sachs is a tech bro who works closely with Elon. Elon says this is getting ridiculous. Biden says Elon Musk's connections to other countries, quote, worthy of being looked at. His connections to other countries worthy of being looked at. President asked if he thought the Twitter boss was a threat to national security. So then they're mad at Elon now for discriminating against hiring from other countries. So Elon tightens up. He says, how about we just hire U.S. citizens? Then they sue him for only hiring U.S. citizens. He says this is getting ridiculous. He says Biden's DOJ is suing SpaceX for not hiring more refugees. In other words, it demands SpaceX hire fewer Americans, but national security laws require that rocket companies hire American. This lawsuit is so nonsensical, it suggests a political motivation. Yeah, no kidding. Lawfare continues. Biden's political war wages on. We'll continue to cover.